Welcome to Basic Brewing Radio for Thursday, August 4th, 2016. I'm James Spencer. Here at Basic Brewing Radio, we're all about home brewing. This week, Chris Colby, editor of Beer and Wine Journal, joins us to talk about the newest wave in IPAs, fruit. Adding fruit to IPAs to accentuate the fruity hop flavors that come from the American-inspired version of the style. If you're new to home brewing or would like to get into the hobby for the first time, check out our website, basicbrewing.com, where you can find archives of our audio and video podcasts and our DVDs to walk you through basic and more advanced brewing techniques. If you buy any of our DVD combos, you get a free Basic Brewing bottle opener. And don't forget to get a copy of our Brewer's Logbook. You can use it to log and track up to 50 batches of beer. You can follow me on Twitter. My username is Basic Brewing, all one word. We also have a Basic Brewing Radio and Basic Brewing Video page on Facebook at facebook.com/basicbrewing. Thanks again to everybody clicking on the Amazon.com associate link on our basicbrewing.com site. Whenever you think of Amazon shopping, think of us first and go to basicbrewing.com. Click on our Amazon ad on the right-hand side of the page. It won't cost you any extra, and you'll be helping us to bring you this show. We greatly appreciate your support. We also have associate links for Brew Your Own magazine and the American Home Brewers Association on our site as well. You can find our Basic Brewing iPhone app on iTunes, our Android app on Amazon.com. We have a Windows Phone app. We're on the BlackBerry podcast directory, and we're on the Stitcher app as well. And we're on Google Play Music, too, now. If you want to put a tip in our tip jar, some coinage in our virtual guitar case, you can go to basicbrewing.com/support, and thanks to everybody who's done so already. Let's take a quick look into the mailbag. Andrew writes, "You have inspired me to start brewing 1-gallon experimental brews, and I just brewed my first and second 1-gallon batches. I had a quick question I was hoping you could answer. Do you take hydrometer readings to know when the beer is done fermenting? With such a little amount of liquid, I haven't wanted to steal any, and I'm not fond of adding it back to the carboy. I've just thought of leaving it for 2 to 3 weeks. But it seems like it's already close to done after 4 days. I was wondering how you guys do this." Well, Andrew, I understand not wanting to lose any of your 1-gallon batch or small batches to the fermenter flask. I found that, just as with normal, regular, average gravity beers, they're done fermenting after about, week and a half, certainly after a couple weeks. I have to say that I do take hydrometer readings, mainly because I want to taste the beer before it goes into the bottle. So as I'm getting things sanitized and I get my little auto siphon out and I pump some beer into the little tube that I use to take hydrometer readings, and then after I take the reading, I pour that into a glass and I sample that, make sure everything is as I want it before I go into the bottle. And I use the small diameter tube that the hydrometer comes in to take the sample. All you need is enough liquid to float that hydrometer bobber thingy, and so you don't need a larger vessel to put your hydrometer thingy in. The tricky part in using that small plastic tube is that if you fill it up and then set it down vertically, it might fall over easily if you're not careful. But knock wood, that hasn't happened to me yet. So try to use the smallest volume of tube to float that bobber in as possible. That's one solution. But there are also a couple of other things that you might try alternately. This may not be possible depending on your fermenter, but if you sanitize the hydrometer bobber, the glass thingy, you can just put it into your beer before you rack it in the fermenter and take a reading. Now, this may be challenging if you're using a 1-gallon jug. It may be hard to get the bobber thing in there. You definitely don't want to drop it into the fermenter because it may hit the bottom and break. And I've certainly done that with a glass thermometer and a brew kettle before. Definitely a bummer. In addition to the glass, there are those little lead beads in the bottom of the thing that will disperse into your beer. So that would be a heartbreaker. And also, it may be hard to get the thing back out. And your fermenter may not be deep enough. The beer may not be deep enough in the fermenter to float the hydrometer properly. So, that's if you were using, say, an open container to brew your small batch, that might be a good choice. However, you can also invest in a refractometer to take your final gravity reading. It only requires, just a few drops of liquid to take a reading with a refractometer. The trick is that the presence of alcohol will affect your reading after fermentation. So you'll need to adjust your reading with a calculator that you can find online. For example, Sean Terrell has one on his website, I believe. If you don't have a refractometer, you should probably get one anyway. It's the easiest way to take a gravity reading of hot wort from the kettle. So it's very, very useful there. I love my hydrometer for that. So anyway, those are some ideas for you, Andrew. I hope that helps. And I hope you enjoy small batch brewing as much as I do. I've got a 2-gallon batch of Pilsner that I'm going to ask Chris about in this week's interview, so stay tuned for that as well. First, let's take a moment to have a word from our sponsors, Desiree and Dave of High Gravity in Tulsa. I talk all the time about high-gravity electric brewing systems, but you need to check out highgravitybrew.com when you're building your next recipe. The Build Your Own Beer feature on highgravitybrew.com lets you select all your ingredients from one page, including adjuncts, yeast, priming options, fruit flavorings, and purees, and you can even name your brew. And the website keeps a running total at the bottom of the page that's visible all the time of what your order is adding up to. So that's really, really handy. And you can easily reorder your ingredients from your account management page and create a Get Me This registry to let friends and family know what you need for your next gift-receiving occasion. And also you get $7.99 flat rate shipping on most items. So check all that out at highgravitybrew.com and thank them for their support of Basic Brewing Radio. Okay, let's talk to Chris Colby of beerandwinejournal.com on Fruit IPAs. Chris Colby, welcome back to Basic Brewing Radio.
Hey, James. Thanks for having me on your show.
It's been a long time since we've done the Skypeage interview.
Yes, indeed.
And give us an update on your book.
My book is coming out September 20th. It's the Homebrewer's Recipe Bible. And it's available on Amazon now and most other places you can buy books online. And it'll be available in actual bookstores September 20th.
And it is kitty cat approved. we're hearing feline voices there.
Yeah. This cat likes it because if it sells well, he gets to continue to eat cat food.
That's a bonus. If you're a cat. If you're a person, not so much.
No. If it doesn't sell well, then I'm eating cat food.
Well, I've had a sneak peek at it, and it's a beautiful looking book, as well as full of 101 or two delicious recipes as well. So I hope that people will respond, and it makes a perfect Christmas gift as well. So the series of articles that you have started on beerandwinejournal.com is on fruit IPAs. Now, what have we run out of things to do to IPAs? We had the black IPAs, we're coffee IPAs, New England IPAs, West Coast. Now we're starting to put fruit in IPAs. Is that the idea?
That's where we're at. Yeah, the IPA train keeps rolling on, and even though in the past when you used to read articles about adding fruit to beer, they always used to say, lower the amount of hops because fruit and beer clash. But now, suddenly the idea is add fruit to IPAs, and that's where we're at here in 2016.
Common knowledge is uncommon.
Right.
So what are we talking about? What kinds of fruit are already being added to commercial beers or commercial IPAs?
Well, the really big push started with Ballast Point's Grapefruit Sculpin. I mean, there had been so-called white IPAs before that had, citrus peel in them, a small amount. And, probably if you, utterly scoured every beer that's been released, there are probably other fruit IPAs. But Ballast Point's Grapefruit Sculpin was where, like, the first beer that really got a lot of people's attention. And so at Grapefruit, a lot of, even Sam Adams now has a grapefruit IPA, and a lot of people do. And the other big fruit is like mango or some tropical fruits. There are a lot of those New Zealand hop varieties that have the real tropical fruit, aroma to them, and a lot of brewers are brewing with fruits that accentuate that. And of course, with the grapefruit, there are the American hops like Autumn and Amarillo, Cascade, that have the citrusy, grapefruity edge to them, and the grapefruit and the grapefruit IPAs are usually accentuated by accentuating those hops. So it's a lot of different things have been tried, but the big ones right now are the grapefruit IPAs and the tropical fruit IPAs.
Yeah, it seems like a natural pairing there. If you like the fruitiness, the grapefruity or the tropical fruity aspects of those hops, it seems like just putting the actual fruit in there would be a good pairing. I remember back when we first got our first shipment of good, fresh Amarillo hops here in Northwest Arkansas. Andy Sparks made an Amarillo beer, and he just poured in the Amarillo hops, and it was like drinking grapefruit juice. I mean, it was very, very, very grapefruity. So I guess that this is a way that you could kind of be more practical in a way, and instead of just adding more hops into the boil or into the beer, you could just add the fruit that tastes like the hops that you like.
Yeah, definitely. You can accentuate existing hop flavors, and that's what the brewers have done so far. Is I also had I was just recently in Boston, and I had a beer by Harpoon that was what was it? It was a mango pale ale, so not an IPA, but the same kind of thing. And the mango accentuated the tropical fruity hops, and I also had a couple grapefruit IPAs while I was there, and some of them were pretty good.
Huh. Now, I guess there's a disclaimer that we have to say that grapefruit interferes with some medications, right? So if you are serving a beer that actually has grapefruit juice in it or grapefruit in it, you should tell everybody that you're serving it to in case they are on certain medications, right? Yeah,
I think statins and a few other kinds of drugs actually interact badly with grapefruit. So yeah, you should, obviously if you're on those, you will know enough not to brew one of those for yourself. But if you brew one, you should probably let people know if other people are drinking it that it contains actual grapefruit.
So let's start with the building blocks. Can we just put fruit into a standard IPA?
In this case, since you're accentuating something that's already there, yeah, there really isn't like a super, a huge amount of adjustments you need to make. It's an IPA, so you're not going to want to adjust the hops that much. You might, given that you're going to bump up the aroma with, if you're doing the grapefruit version, given that you're going to bump up the grapefruit aroma with a little either grapefruit zest or grapefruit juice or both, you might want to bump the finishing hops down just a little, but it's an IPA, so you don't want to go too low. And on the other hand, it's an IPA, so you might not want to adjust, the hops down at all. So this is a case where I think, given that the fruit is always going to, or at least the way it's generally been made so far, is that the fruit accentuates an existing character there that comes from the hops. Yeah, I don't think you really need to make a lot of adjustments in your underlying underlying IPA recipe, because also the fruit should, if you add whole fruit, like you're making a mango one, the sugars in the mango are going to completely ferment away, so it's not going to change the body of the beer any. It's going, it'll adjust the alcohol up a little bit, but you're not making, and given the amount of mango you would add, it's not going to affect the overall strength that much. So yeah, this is a case where you really, you'd want to taste it after brewing it once and see if there's any adjustments that you wanted to make. But like for your first stab, it really could be as simple as just taking your IPA recipe and adding either some grapefruit zest to it or some mango puree to it.
Now, when we were in Baltimore and D.C., we got firsthand experience of the either Northeastern or New England IPA, which is less about the bitterness and more about the hop flavors and aromas, as opposed to the West Coast IPAs, which are about boosting bitterness and getting especially yeast character out of the way and kind of giving the beer as much of a clean slate, or the hops as much of a clean slate of beer to display the bitterness and then the flavors and aromas. So do you think that adding, say, grapefruit or mango would work equally well in a bitter-based IPA as opposed to a hop flavor-forward beer?
That's a good question. I think it could work in either. The IPAs I've had, like the grapefruit IPAs, have been fairly bitter, mostly not the huge cloudy, mess that East Coast IPAs are, or at least that type of East Coast IPA. So it certainly works with that. And with a East Coast IPA, I don't know. I probably can't say who cares, but it should work because it's just a big cloudy mess anyway. Like, sort of given up on any idea that you're brewing a quality beverage.
We've just lost. Hello, New England. Hello. Now, that's your Chris, you ignorant slut. No, yeah. I have your point counterpoint. Now we had a few of the New England IPAs, and they weren't all milkshake looking things. The one that Mike Tonsmeyer served at his house was hazy, but it was not. It was not as cloudy as say the 100% rye tart beer that I made and showed on the most recent Basic Brewing video episode. So I think there are degrees of messiness of that style. So so I have to rebut your blanket condemnation of the New England IPAs, Chris Colby.
Yeah. It also helps that I'm just totally reacting from pictures I've seen on Facebook. I've never actually had one, so.
Well, there you go. Like most Facebook opinions, they're not based on fact.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about your favorite IPA recipe. What are the building blocks? What is the grain bill, for example?
For just a standard like American IPA, you've got a ton of options, but really, just straight, 2-row American malt that's all you need. You can add, if you want to, up to 5% of some sort of crystal or caramel malt, especially a lower color one, in the 20 or 30 Lovibond range. For a normal American IPA, like some double IPAs have a little bit up to 10 or in some cases even 20% sugar in the grist, but that's for a normal IPA you wouldn't necessarily need that, or you wouldn't. So the grain bill for an American IPA should be really simple. You can use all base malt, whether it's just a 2-row or a 2-row mixed with, you might want to mix in up to 10% Munich, or maybe up to 20% Vienna or something like that, and then a little bit of caramel malt or not, depending on what you want. So I'm a big fan of keeping the grain bill on those very simple.
So since the fruit or fruit juice is going to add some very fermentable sugars, I'm assuming, would you want to think about how that affects the body of the beer?
Yeah, the sugars added from the fruit are going to be 100% fermentable. So, and you're not going to add like a ton of them either. So yeah, it shouldn't really. The sugars shouldn't make that big of a difference, really. It's the flavor that you're going to get from either the fruit or the peel.
And then as far as hops go, you're saying that at least as far as especially like a first experimental stab at it, just keep the hopping the same as you would a normal IPA.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, the usual way, and not that homebrewers need to follow how it's been done before, but the usual way that most of the grapefruit ones work is they've got a beer that has a lot of the American hops, a lot with that citrus edge to them, and then they accentuate that with either a little bit of grapefruit zest or zest plus some grapefruit juice. And then the other major version is the tropical ones, where they accentuate. They've got an IPA with those really tropical fruit flavored hops, especially like some of the New Zealand varieties, and then they accentuate that with either mango or passion fruit, or something that is along those lines.
Now let's talk about how and when you add the fruit. So let's start with grapefruit.
Yeah. Okay. If you're adding grapefruit, again, the way that most of the commercial beers have done it is to use either the zest of it, the zest from a grapefruit, or the zest combined with some actual grapefruit juice. So in that case, you'd add the zest in the boil for 5 gallons. What I would recommend is think about when you're brewing a wit beer, right? A little bit of orange zest is added for those, but you don't really want, in a wit beer, you don't get like an overpowering, orange flavor. And if you look at a lot of recipes for wit beer, they're, anywhere between like an eighth and a quarter of a teaspoon of orange peel up to about, or an ounce, I'm sorry, an eighth to a quarter of an ounce to up to almost a half ounce of orange peel. Okay, in a grapefruit IPA, you're going to want a little bit more than that. I would say for a moderate amount, and I haven't tried this. This is more of a guess based on, just other beers that I brewed. Maybe start out with an ounce of grapefruit peel, or if you really want to, accentuate it, go to an ounce and a half or 2. And add it in the boil in the last couple minutes, and that would be what you do. And then if you wanted to add the grapefruit juice is pretty strong. I would add, normally fruit beers are added, or fruit is added, or the amount of fruit that you add to a fruit beer is determined on a weight basis, a weight per volume. Like for very strongly flavored fruits, you usually add about a pound per gallon, and for less strongly flavored fruits, you add about 2 pounds per gallon. So, like raspberries, very strong, a pound per gallon gives a nice raspberry flavored beer. Whereas if you go with cherries, which are a little less flavored, but you still want that fruit intensity, you'd add probably 2 pounds per gallon. And so, anyway, grapefruit's pretty strong. I would go with a pound, or even maybe only a half a pound. Which would be roughly, I don't know, volumetrically. We'll fix that in post.
So I guess you could, so literally a pound of juice. So I guess you could put a bowl on your scale and tare it and then pour it until you got a pound.
Yeah. or what, a gallon of water is what, 8 point something pounds?
Something like that, yeah.
So it'd be an eighth of a gallon. It would be a pound roughly.
And would you add that in the secondary?
Yeah, if you're going to add fruit juice, I'd add it in secondary.
Because I'm assuming that, I mean, the certainly not the boil. You wouldn't want to boil off, the delicate flavors and aromas of that. And it seems like also in primary fermentation, there's enough agitation that a lot of that might be lost as well.
Right. And if I was looking for juice, I would also take a look at the ingredients very carefully and just try to find something that's, as close to 100% grapefruit juice as possible, because, things can be sold as fruit juice that have, very little actual fruit in them. So you watch the label to make sure that you're getting what you want, or squeeze your own fresh.
Yeah, it didn't seem that like it would be that difficult.
No, and it should be. If you sanitize your juice squeezer, when you cut into the grapefruit, if you use a clean knife, it should basically be sanitary. There's nothing, unless there's something obviously growing inside the grapefruit. And plus it's low pH, and plus it's already beer. So you could use, in that case, fresh squeezed juice shouldn't be a problem.
And if you buy commercial juice, you probably want to look at the label and see if there are any preservatives.
Yeah, given the amount of juice that you would add to 5 gallons of beer, I don't think preservatives would really make that big of a difference. The amount of preservative in commercial juice, it's enough to suppress, the growth of stray contaminants, during their packaging and all that, but it's not enough to suppress, the amount of yeast in a just fermented beer. Mm-hmm. So I wouldn't worry too much about that.
Let's talk about mango.
Yeah, mango. Your best bet there would be if you could find some 100% mango puree. Add that in secondary. That would be a great way to do it. Or if you just found mangoes, you could add as fresh fruit in the secondary, and then you just have to sort of decide on how intense you wanted the mango flavor, because you could, mangoes, I don't know, reasonably strongly flavored fruit. I would say, at least to my taste buds, it's less intense than raspberries, but more intense than cherries. So somewhere between 1 pound and 2 pounds or 5 gallons would be, I would say, a good starting point. And then, if you were, really wanted to develop a recipe like that, try it once like that. If you're looking for, like the normal level of fruit in a fruit beer, and then adjust from there. And in that case, your best would be either fresh fruit or a mango puree.
So you're saying a pound or 1.5 pounds for per gallon?
Per gallon.
Okay, all right. Just to clarify, it's a pound or 1.5 pounds per gallon of beer. And you would, with a puree, I know that Steve Wilkes pureed some peaches one time and put them in a mead, and there was quite a slurry at the bottom of the fermenter. Is that the way that you would approach that, or would we have concerns with losing some beer with some of the sediment?
Yeah, anytime you add a lot of relatively large amount of fruit to beer, you're going to have, especially if you do it with raw fruit, you're going to get you're going to lose some beer to the leftover plant material. So sure, yeah, you would have to. You have to expect to let the secondary fermentation go, give it some time for the whatever's left of the plant matter to just sort of settle out, and then rack the beer off the top of that.
And would fining with gelatin help that, or would it add to the problem?
I don't know. That might help. Another thing that would help in the case of clarity would be adding some pectinase if you're gonna go the mango route because that'll have some pectins in it.
And I'm guessing nowadays, they sell these, tropical fruit blends of juices, in the store. So your imagination could probably run wild as far as, different flavor combinations that you want to play with. I have a selfish question to ask while I've got you on the line, and we're talking about fruit. The other day, my wife and I were driving around, and I said, what kind of beer should I brew next? And she said, Blackberry Pilsner. And, of course, fans of the Reinheitsgebot would be shocked that I was brewing a Blackberry Pilsner. But I have I've started on the beer. I've brewed the beer itself, and it's fermenting, and I've decided to not lager this quote-unquote Pilsner because, one of the goals of lagering is to, minimize the fruity flavors from the yeast. And my concept is that I'm going to be putting fruit flavors in the beer. So, why should I spend a lot of extra time and effort to defruitify it if I'm going to fruitify it again? So, but I've never brewed with blackberries. So it's a 2-gallon batch. So I'm assuming the 1 pound per gallon theory would work with blackberries as well, right?
Yeah, definitely. Blackberries are strongly flavored,
and with blackberries, you've got quite a bit of plant material in there because each one of those blackberries consists of lots of little bobules of fruit there, and the skin and everything. So would you just put it, say, in the food processor or the blender and blend it all up and just add it in the fermenter?
Yeah, I would probably brew the beer first, then take a sanitized bucket and put the blackberries in there, and then you could use a food processor or something if you wanted, but I would go a little bit gentler and just take like a potato masher and just mash them in the bottom of that sanitized bucket, and then rack the beer into that, and then I would give that like a week, 10 days, something like that, of contact with the fruit, and then hopefully that would be enough to get the secondary fermentation over, and also enough time to settle out because you're going to have you're going to have some plant material left over.
Mm-hmm. And what about the theories of freezing the fruit to burst the cell walls? That's something that I've heard, forever. Is that if you're going to make a fruit beer, stick the fruit in the freezer first and burst those cell walls to make them more available to the beer.
Yeah, I've heard that too. I've never. I don't know. I think I did it once or twice, and I didn't really. I didn't notice a difference, but I didn't have any way of noticing a difference either. Like I didn't set up, it's the sort of experiment that would have been required to tell if it made a difference. I usually just take the easier route and skip all that.
Easy sounds good.
If you had a sort of fruit that you really suspected it would be hard to get all the juice out, then I might make that extra effort. But you can crush blackberries up and get plenty of fruit, out of them. That's how people who make homemade blackberry wine do it. It's just not that hard to get the juice out of blackberries. So in that case, I just wouldn't worry about it.
Yeah. Well, all right. Well, I'm going to use my little Mr. Beer fermenter since it's only 2 gallons. It's fermenting now in my plastic hardware store jug that I bought a long time ago, and I've used it several times to do 2-gallon batches. It came with 3 gallons of spring water in it, and I used that to brew initially, and I've just never brought it back to the hardware store. And then the Mr. Beer thing is really handy to do things like this because it's got that wide opening in the top of it. And I'm only doing a 2-gallon batch. So, well, excellent. I think it's exciting. It'd be interesting to see whether fruited IPAs are something that are a flash in the pan, or if they're going to be something that's going to hang around a while.
Yeah, it'll be interesting.
And just think, the deluge of pumpkin beers and pumpkin spice beers is just around the corner.
Pumpkin spiced IPA next, yeah. Or sour IPAs. I guess that'll be on the next.
Well, there you go.
Oh, the other fruit they use a lot of times in the new fruit IPAs? Pineapple is another one.
Oh, well, there you go. Yeah.
Because that has that. Yeah, it's similar to some of the characters in the fruity, tropical fruity hops.
All right, Chris. Well, you can continue to read Chris's articles on beerandwinejournal.com and look for Chris's book, which is let's see if I can get it right, the Homebrew Recipe Bible?
Yes.
Coming out before you know it. Well, thank you, sir.
Thanks, James.
Well, thanks again to Chris. Just to let you know, we've still got plenty of material from our Baltimore and D.C. trip coming down the line, but I'll be putting other content into the lineup as we go along. As a producer, it's a luxury to have evergreen interviews in the can, so I'm going to take advantage of that as we go. In the meantime, if you have brewing questions, show suggestions, or just want to say howdy, write to james@basicbrewing.com, or just fill out the contact form on basicbrewing.com, and please don't forget to tell us where you're from. Check out our support link where you can throw a couple of bucks into the tip jar by subscribing financially to our podcasts. Be sure to check out our DVDs, Extract Brewing and Partial Mashing, Stepping into All Grain, Low-Tech Lagering and Decoction Mashing, and Introduction to Wine Kits. You can find them all on our site. Get a free Basic Brewing bottle opener with any DVD combo. You can check out our Basic Brewing shirts in the store as well. You can find our logbooks where you can track and log up to 50 batches of beer. Check all of that out at basicbrewingshop.com. And thanks to everybody who's continued to click on our Amazon.com link. We appreciate the support there. Our featured products this week that were purchased through the link are Brew Tapper Dual Scale Refractometer with ATC bricks and specific gravity, best for beer and wine. And Litter Genie Plus Cat Litter Disposal System with odor-free pail. Silver. Thanks again, and remember, I can't tell who bought what, so no worries there. Just click on the Amazon.com logo on our site the next time you feel like Amazon shopping. We greatly appreciate your support. And don't forget that you can also join the American Homebrewers Association and subscribe to Brew Your Own magazine through the associate links on basicbrewing.com. That's all until next time. Until then, thanks for listening, everybody. I'm James Spencer. Production help for Basic Brewing Radio and our website is provided by Kelly Dodson. Basic Brewing Radio is a production of Active Voicing. We'll talk to you next time, everybody. So long.